Hello, welcome to another episode of Why Didn't They Laugh? Today is a doozy, and it is it's intense. I experienced something on stage 2 weeks ago that I haven't really ever. I mean, I get conflict sometimes, and usually it ends great. But this guy like legit wanted to murder me, and he was like huge. I'll set the stage for you. 15 to 20 people. Very small crowd outside of town on like a Thursday. And it was one of my buddy's shows. And he was like, come do the show. And I'm like, oh, great. So I'm trying out some new stuff. And I'll play you the joke that I was trying out. I thought it went really well, I think. You can be the judge, though. Yeah.
Something else about women. If you don't match their adjective when describing something, it's insulting. Like if she's like, this food's amazing, and I'm like, yeah, it's good. In her mind, it's like, it sucks. Like I have to match amazing or go above it. It's fucking mind blowing. Like you have to match like anything below that. This is what I figured out. Women aren't crazy. They're just like linguists. Like I'm reading a book right now about linguistics. They're just high-level linguists. So they take offense to all this crazy shit that we don't even think about. It's if you don't match the adjective, it's a bad thing. This movie is beautiful. That's pretty good. You don't like it? Like you don't like love? No, it's pretty good. It's like great. I like it. No, but you originally said pretty good. Going back, it's like shut the fuck up. Shut up. That's why men get labeled as abusive.
All right, I think that's pretty funny, but it could use some tweaks. All right, so within 10, 15 seconds later, I'm about to do a joke about 50 Shades of Grey because it had just opened and it was such a monster movie. And this happened.
Do you like 50 Shades of Grey? Like, is that like a romantic tip? What's that? You saw the movie? No one saw the movie. I don't know if you know this, but it just broke. Why do you think I'm talking about? It just broke all the records. You're not laughing at the joke?
Okay. There's 15 people. Small is hostile. And this dude, just out of nowhere, if you hear people agreeing with him, it's only one person, it's his chick. And they're just being complete assholes. And I don't have it on tape because my microphone messed up, but at one point she claims that he has a 11-inch dick. All right, here's number 2.
I don't care. You just told me that what I said wasn't funny. It's like, Jesus.
Ask a question about 50 Grey.
About 50 Grey? Yeah, I want to know if people saw it. And you're like, we didn't see it. It made $80 million opening weekend. I'm trying to be relevant.
Okay. So he keeps engaging with me, and so at one point, I don't know if I have it on tape. Is this?
You can't see somebody try.
You can't
Okay, yeah. All right.
see someone try? Well, that costs more money. All right, you want me to try? Tell me a topic. I will try for you. I promise. I'm here for you. I'm not trying to be an asshole. What do you want me to talk about? Are you guys serious? Do you think
That's only his chick, by the way. The rest of the crowd is having fun. It's just him and his chick, and this dude's a fucking nightmare.
you're in Carnegie Hall? Like, you really think you paid $80 to see fucking George Carlin right now? This is a Thursday. All right, I'll do some good jokes.
Okay, at this point, because here's a major point I want to make. I do believe people are good. I think even at this point, I'm not trying to categorize this guy as an asshole. It's definitely something else that I don't understand that's happening. And a dangerous place to be in comedy is when a lot of the crowd didn't pay to get there. And a lot of shows, especially around Los Angeles, tickets will be free. Well, some tickets will be free to get people in. Because, I mean, you're dealing, every major comedian lives here or New York. So it's pretty easy to see someone good. And I read a book. I read like 3 or 4 books this week because I was on the road. And this is some amazing shit. There's one called Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name. It's Ariely. And basically the whole book is about how humans make horrible decisions, but it's like decisions that go against what we should be doing, and it follows patterns. Like, for example, he would set up a thing at a mall where he'd give away a truffle would cost 15 cents, and a Hershey's Kiss would be 2 cents. And people would typically buy the truffle. And then he lowered the truffle to 10 cents, and the Kiss was free. And almost everyone took the Kiss. It was called The Power of Free. It was that chapter where if something's free, they're much more likely to take it. And even though I don't remember it was 15 and 2 cents or whatever, but it was a better value to pay for the truffle. Does that make sense? He also talked about market norms versus social norms. Like, someone's more likely to help you move for free than if you paid them a low amount of money, because social norms, people want to be good to each other in small groups. The smaller the group, the less people you know, the less likely you'll steal from them or hurt them. That's why there's a lot more crime in large cities, because you don't know the person. It's anonymous. And I'm now starting to realize, as I'm describing this stuff, that there's no way I'll give it justice. But I highly recommend this book because it breaks down why we buy things for the prices we buy, why we don't question certain shit, how our ancient instincts kind of hurt us in the marketplace. But the bottom line is, I think people are good in general. I was just on the Late Late Show with my buddy Kunal Nair from The Big Bang Theory. Here's a joke I do about miscommunication. I love people. People are awesome. I think people are good until we get into cars, and then we're monsters. I don't know what happens. I don't know what causes road rage, but it's insane. I was at a red light recently, and the light turned green, and the guy behind me just honked for me to go, just meh. And there's just something about that sound. I was like, no, you don't talk to me like that. So I thought about it. I'm like, Owen, you're a comedian. You have nowhere to be ever. Let's put it in park. So I put the car in park. I'm like, now nobody goes. And the guy's like, man, I'm looking in the rear view. He's like, I'm like, yeah, dance for me. Let me see that. And I loved it. I made him late, and I felt great about it. And then later I regretted it. And I'll tell you why. Because I was in a parking garage. And I was in a similar situation. I was behind a car, and the arm thing went up. And I was like, man. And the dude was like, yeah, I saw it, bro. I was like, I didn't mean it like that. And then I realized there's only one horn. And it's mean. We have a very limited vocabulary behind the car. Mer, that's your only emotion. We need a second horn that's nice. It's like, mer, like a nice horn. Like, think about how different driving would be if you're at a red light, the light turns green, you just hear, mer, then you hit your thank you horn, me mom, and go in peace. Thank you. And another thing about horns is there's no directionality. It's just like an Uzi. It's just, man, we need directional horns. Because sometimes you honk, you're like, man, someone's like, what? I'm like, no, we're bros. Marina run. It's that guy, go. It's a yield sign, you don't have to stop. My point is, the yield sign is like the stop sign stoner brother that never got his life together. Well, all right, that keeps going. I see. I think you get it. But the reason I played that is, one, to say thank you to my buddy Kunal who hooked that up. He's literally the best. And two, I try to assume that rage is coming from a good place, if that makes sense. That, like, if someone's freaking out, that there's something going on that I don't understand. That happened to me. If you want to go back in this podcast and listen to An Act of War, that whole thing where I'm like thinking this guy's being a dick and it turns out he's French and he can't speak English. I assume that there's something else happening. All right, how do I get out of this fucking screen? All right, escape. Second. Yeah, there we go. So this guy is being such an irrational piece of shit that I can't understand what's happening. And here's the thing about culture. I read this book called The Like Switch by, who's it by? Jack Schaefer, I think. My handwriting sucks. But it was really good. He was an FBI agent, now he's a professor, and it basically is like teaching you what to look for and how to act to make someone like you. And I'm not reading it to make friends. I'm reading it because as a touring comedian, I'm in cities where I don't know anyone, and I'm like shaking hands after and meeting the crowd, and people can just fucking punch me in the face if they want. I try to like read books about human nature and communication and stuff to understand when something's coming, like if I can like read it. And one thing I've learned as I've toured now for 13 years is that there's very few indicators that someone's gonna fucking attack you, like race. Like for example, race. If someone's black or white, there's no, or Asian or Hispanic, there's absolutely no correlation between that and being crazy and psychotic. And I know that seems obvious. Hang on, is this thing fucking recording? Oh yeah, it's recording. But it's not. Like people think that black people are gonna hurt them more. Let's just fucking be honest. Like they think that. CNN makes you think that. It's like, I just saw that movie, what was that called? Nightcrawler. And that was a powerful scene when the producers were like, no, what sells is that urban black people are coming into the white areas and they're going to hurt people. Like that's what they looked for. And then when they proved that this one crime wasn't that, they didn't send a retraction because they want it to be that. I've had interactions like, okay, this guy is black as shit. He's super black and he's fucking huge and he's really scary looking. But I'm engaging with him because in my experience, that doesn't matter. I can share a laugh. I've had like gang members like be the coolest, chillest guys ever. Like I'll make fun of the fact they have diamond earrings. I call them pretty princesses and they'll fucking die laughing. Like you cannot tell who is nuts based on someone's demographic. And this book, the Like Switch, there's something called an urban gaze, and I've noticed I've developed that in the 11 years I've lived in Los Angeles, where when you walk on the street, you look like you look down, you don't make eye contact with people, you look I wouldn't say mean, but like you try and look as threatening as possible, where you're just like, that's my urban gaze. Because so many people are trying to like, you know, get money from you, or they could attack you, or like want something from you. So you develop this like wall. And I'm from a small town, so when I first moved here, I'd be like, and people would be like, "Do you got $20?" And they like follow you, and then, you know, they piss on you or something. So a lot of times people living in cities have this look where they look fucking mean, but they're not. And so you can't judge people based on externals. And my job is a quick judgment. I have to judge people quick. And this guy could have been a gentle giant. He could have been misunderstood. So at this point, what I do is I do good comedy for like 6 minutes. And when I say good, I mean polished. Like I'll do stuff that I know works, like that horn joke, or like the Starbucks joke, or like some kind of thing that I'm like, let's pull the trigger. And so I do that, and then I come back to him. I think that's right now.
But just to fill you in on the underbelly of comedy, you have to try new stuff to get to that. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm trying to make up with this monster in the crowd. So I'm basically saying, if you felt I wasn't trying enough earlier, it's because sometimes I have to do that. And there's 15 or 20 people in the crowd that didn't pay to see me. There's 8 people on the lineup and no one paid any money. So if I'm going to fuck up, it's going to be now. But I just did that because apparently you need it because you're a monster. And so this is what happens.
When you see comics kill all the time, it's because they're cowards. Like they're not trying new shit. They know what works and they just fucking hit the button every time. If you see a comic bomb, you're like, oh, he's trying. Let's support him. Not attack him with your big dick. You fucking loser. By the way, if you want to see all this on a podcast, you can't, because I'm doing a podcast called Why Didn't They Laugh?
Okay, I had to plug the podcast because I knew I was going to do it on this. Yeah, I did call him a loser, but a lot of times verbal attacks bond men. Like if I'm like, you loser, it's like, oh, you got me. Let's be friends now. Not this guy. Not this guy. Here's the next one.
I deserve more. That's not enough for me.
Oh, by the way, when I say I deserve more, that's not enough for me. I'm finishing a joke about women saying deeper during sex. It has nothing to do with him. I'm not attacking this guy.
I deserve more. That's not enough for me. Did you have a bad day today? Like, why'd you come in with such negativity?
Dude, I fucking answered your question.
No.
I answered your question. I didn't see fucking shades of gray. It's not my
No, you said be funny. I came here to see jokes. I have a better argument to do.
I answered your statement of you don't try. I said I came.
I never said I didn't try.
You said you came here not to try. What the fuck? You came
What? That's the response to yours.
Check your podcast, dude.
No one.
Okay, at this point, you realize that he's trying to be an ass. I can prove everything he's saying is a lie. He started the fight. I tried to make up with him by doing my good jokes. I explained to him why I try new stuff, and he's still freaking out. So now I know it's not about me. And as Gavin DeBecker said in the book, The Gift of Fear, engage and enrage. If you see this, you can't engage or else they go crazy. Okay, what he doesn't realize is I have to engage with him because there's 15 people in the crowd. If it was 1,000 people, he'd just blend right in. I wouldn't give a shit. But I can see this dude. He's right here. And the rest of the crowd is so scared at this point because this dude is a monster. Just like, and I can't lose the crowd. I can't be like, okay, like I have to fight him. I have to, like, I wish I could have went back. Like, I don't know what I would have done differently. I mean, because this is halfway through. There's more. I don't know how else to do it because I have to command respect from the people, but I also, this guy is on a different level. And I kind of can tell that he was in prison because, as I said, I don't think people are bad. I think that people misinterpret like cultural insults, faux signals. That's all in this like switch stuff. That's why there's a lot of issues that I don't think really exist between cultures because they misinterpret signals. Like this guy is so nuts that I think his girl was laughing too hard in the beginning. He starts getting angry. She overcompensates and says he has an 11-inch dick. Now she's on his side because they're teaming up against me. And he's interpreting all this shit as a threat, and it's not. Okay? That happens in prison. I know people that are in prison or have been to prison, and that's one thing I notice about them is like eye contact. It's like, fuck. It's like, what? It's like, oh, you want to fight me? You ever like experience that with someone? I have all these dogs. Hang on, I'll show you. This is Sophie right here. Hey, Sophie. Okay, this is Sophie. She's one of the most mellow dogs in the world. She didn't used to be because when she was at a pound, she would attack every dog. Like she just flipped out. And that's because in a pound, it's like prison. Everything's a threat to these people. Now look at her. With a little bit of love and some hang session and some consistency, you become quite a mellow little lady. So anyway, a lot of human nature you can read in dogs. Like if you see a dog just start snapping, it's because they've had a bad run. This dude is a pound dog. He's been institutionalized. He's interpreting. I almost want to tell him, but it's too condescending that comedy isn't his game. He shouldn't be here. It's a cognitive, emotional experience where you have to be able to think and feel and relate and be open to understand comedy. This dude should just watch Fast and the Furious at home on DVD and never even think about going to a comedy show. Check this out.
I wasn't even in your show. You asked me about
What?
the 50 Shades shit.
I said, did you guys see 50 Shades of...
We all know at this point he entered my show. He heckled me. He said, be funny, try. None of us saw 50 Shades of Grey. So I didn't try and talk to this motherfucker.
Grey? You like a fucking spokesman for the jury saying we didn't. By the way, they like...
All I did say...
Security. What? What's your... No, what happened today?
Finish your set and get the fuck off the stage.
No, now I don't get off the stage.
Stop talking to me because you're going far and beyond. You should just...
No, I'm not. I just asked you what happened
You should
today.
have just continued on and not...
You don't tell me what to do, bro.
Don't fucking tell me what to do. That's all.
You just told me to get off the stage.
No, I said just finish your set.
Yeah, are you guys enjoying this or should I ignore the guy? No, but you enjoy it at any level? Okay, now we're about to do a nice long set.
That's what I came here for. Finish doing what you...
Oh, so now you want me to go. Now I can't go. Fuck, I gotta do the opposite of what he said. No, but now you want me to keep dancing for you, but you like the fucking Starbucks joke. You like the deeper joke. When I started trying, you enjoyed yourself. True or false, you enjoyed yourself. You enjoyed yourself when I did the fun Starbucks joke.
Myself until you started talking to me on some real
You started it, and I didn't talk about some real shit.
shit.
I didn't
Yeah, is there
say
more?
real shit. What real shit? Are we hashtag real shit? Hashtag real shit?
Hashtag you started talking to me.
No, I didn't. What planet are you on? Okay, fuck it. I'll do one more joke and then I'll get out of here. I think you... What?
Oh, by the way, the only person clapping was his stupid girlfriend. So, yeah, it's weak what I'm doing at this point. That sounds weak to me now. Like, where I'm just like, no, you started it. You started it. But, like, when you have someone in a crowd saying, get off the stage, you can't leave or else you lose. So, I mean, maybe I should have just lost. Because who cares? But if that's how I felt, I never would have a comedy career because I would have just gotten off the stage a long time ago. All right, here's two more.
Is he out? Where'd he go? Does he have anger management classes or anything?
By the way, he's not really out. I can see him standing by the door.
By the way, no one believes he has an 11-inch dick.
I'll tell you what I'm waiting for you.
Are you seriously that insecure? Like, what's your fucking problem? I've had one person storm the stage in 13 years and it was a lesbian. Alright, which is dead. I'll close on one joke. Was I wrong with that? That dude, is that bad? Like, is that bad?
Yeah, that's why the crowd seemed so quiet during all this, is they're like scared as shit. That's why I was like, because it seems so nuts that I figured I must have been wrong, but I mean, I was wrong to engage. I should just never talk to a guy that's that nuts, but when a crowd's that small, you feel like it's not a crowd. You feel like you're in a bar or something, and you got to defend yourself. This is a really short clip. This is really funny. And
Everyone got scared.
He looks like Mike Tyson.
He looks like Tyson. Oh shit, he might have just gotten out of prison. Everyone got scared.
yeah, he apparently looked like Mike Tyson. And then he was waiting for me in the parking lot, and I had to get escorted. Yeah, that's never happened to me before. I've never had someone come up to the stage like they want to fight me, which he did. And that's when I was like, why are you insecure? Like, you clearly don't have an 11-inch dick. Like, the only time was a lesbian. There was a lesbian couple up front, and this one girl's girlfriend was just dying laughing at everything. And obviously they probably had some insecurities of their own. And her girlfriend, like, got on stage and was, like, ready to swing. And that was actually one of the scariest things for me, because you can't hit a girl, obviously, so I would have just had to take a beating. Like, if a lesbian wants to beat you up, you just got to take it. Because even if she's, like, really muscular and stuff, you can't, like, hit a girl. So I would have just had to go fetal and take a lesbian ass kicking. That was a while ago, though. But that was scary. All right, more books that I want to recommend. Ocean at the End of the Lane. It is a novel, and it's awesome. It's by Neil Gaiman. Really good. Because my mom's really into like Wicca and stuff like that. She's really earthy. And I think this book kind of touches on it, about like earth-centered spirituality and, you know, the power of women and all that stuff. But it's a cool story around a little kid just trying to like make his way in the world when, you know, his family's kind of fucked up. I was listening to the audio book Skeptic's Guide to American History, Mark Stoller. It's like just a professor giving a lecture. I do that a lot too because I think I kind of miss classes. So I'll just like audible classes. And it's a little depressing. I kind of bailed on it because like the separation of church and state, which America kind of takes as like a source of pride, actually came because we used to be so religious that they didn't want a dirty religion with the state. It's like the opposite. I found that a little depressing. They're like, we don't want filthy government in religion, which is the pure law. It's the opposite of what people think. Everyone's like, our forefathers were like, we have to keep religion out of, you know, the government. That's like set. The government has to remain pure and not affected by religion. It was the opposite. They're like, religion is the shit. We can't let the government into it because it's just so pure and like awesome. So that was a little depressing for me. So I kind of bailed on that. Zillow Talk, all about real estate, written by Stan Humphreys and Spencer Raskoft. Those are the dudes that invented Zillow, which is a combination of Zillion and pillow, I found out. Good book. You know, I learned some cool stuff. Like if a Starbucks goes up in your neighborhood, that means the real estate prices are going to go up. Starbucks increases prices. Sometimes it's better to rent than to buy. Don't always buy. But, you know, it can be boring if you're not interested in real estate. I find real estate fascinating because, like comedy, it's one of these things that you don't know why things go up or down, but it's anchored in human emotion, so it's just interesting to me. Yeah, and that's it. So like, switch. And by the way, I'm getting zero money for this podcast from anyone, so I'm really just recommending these books. I love books. And I love reading about how to read people so that doesn't happen. Like, because reading people is a big part of my job. Like when you see a couple, you have to figure out quickly if they're quietly comfortable or they're quietly hostile with each other. You know, there's a fine line and you got to know all that shit. What do celebrities, women, and ex-cons all have in common? They act like that. Well, not violent, but they think you want something from them, so they can be insecure. But they're right. Like women, if you just walk up to a woman at a bar and she acts like what you would consider bitchy, quote unquote, she's not being bitchy, she's being self-protective because a lot of people over the years have wanted something from her, and that's sex. So you got to be gentle. Same with celebrities. People are like, oh, I met so-and-so and he was such a dick. It's like, let me guess, you walked up to him out of nowhere and just like asked for something? That's how people respond. Same with ex-cons, like that guy. I don't have any anger against that guy. But, you know, in prison, if someone talks to you, it's seen as threatening. And you have to like win. You have to become like a 5-year-old again and be like, no, you. And then usually there's punches and violence and all that shit. And it's just a different world that I don't understand. But my dog Sophie did. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Sophie. But now look at how sweet she is. Because mammals have a good heart, don't we? I don't believe in good and evil. I believe in hungry and full. Full bellies, empty balls, guys. I can't say that enough. I had a great week in Grand Rapids. I taped a bunch of the shows, but I'll be honest with you, it all went really well. So I don't really have anything to analyze. I love cold climate people that like to drink, but they're smart. Jokes kind of just go. You know, I couldn't have been happier with those shows. And my next week will be in Manhattan. It'll be at Gotham Comedy Club in March. I think March 20th, the weekend of March 20th. So if you're in New York, go to that. And the rest of the time, I'll just be in Los Angeles. You guys kick ass. That's it. I love you all. And so do all 3 of my dogs. 2 of them are still sleeping. This is my office slash guest room because real estate's really expensive in LA. So there's a lot of slashes. It's my office / guest room / thinking area. All right, guys. Why didn't they laugh? Cheers.